This is apropos. Since the beginning of time, warfare has relied on human judgment to make life and death decisions. But according to recent reports from Ukraine, AI-controlled drones may have independently identified and killed enemy soldiers without human oversight on the battlefield. The operation marks a watershed moment in military technology and raises profound ethical, legal and strategic questions about the future of war. Monty Francis takes a look.
Drone technology took center stage at the Berlin Air Show this week. A German company unveiled its latest model, which is still manned by humans, but has an increasing level of autonomy.
And why it needs to be manned first, because of EU regulations. Right now, you cannot have a system that can strike without a human pilot. And we still see in the future that we need such systems also that can be able to fly unmanned. So we are preparing for something that is probably a capability needed in the future.
But have fully autonomous drones already been used in battle? A report in New Scientist claims they have been, and to deadly effect. The article cites a senior figure in the Ukraine defense industry who said a one-off test 2 years ago with the fully AI-controlled so-called Terminator drone had killed a number of Russian soldiers. The article quotes him as saying, "We just launch it and we know everything will be dead. Everything that will be found there in this particular area will be dead. There's no connection to the drone at all. You cannot see the video, nothing. Everything it sees will be killed." The official went on to say that fully autonomous drones had not been used in battle more widely since. The Ukrainian army has used drones with AI capabilities in battle, such as the Saker Scout seen in this promotional video. The use of AI by militaries across the globe has become common, but humans have almost always remained in the loop. In 2021, a UN report claimed that autonomous drones were used on the battlefield in Libya, but did not conclude that the drones had killed anyone. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for an international ban on lethal autonomous weapons systems, and he set a deadline for this year. So far, a treaty has yet to materialize.
I'm going to bring in Mariarosaria now, who is a Professor of Digital Ethics and Defence Technologies at the University of Oxford. Mariarosaria, thank you so much for joining us on the programme. It's really great to have you. I think the big question is...
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I mean, the big question for us, I think, is if an AI-controlled drone can decide who lives and dies on the battlefield, the worry is what happens when it makes a mistake? Who do we blame in that situation?
At that point, we really are in trouble, because when an AI system makes a decision of whatever type, it's very hard to trace back responsibilities for those decisions, whether the decision is good or bad. Particularly when those decisions have a huge moral load, the responsibility gap is very, very problematic. And when it comes to AI in defense, we haven't closed that gap. But it's even more problematic than that, because we are using AI in defense to decide whom to kill, when to kill, and how to kill a human being in a total vacuum, lack of regulation. The person from Germany who said that you need to man a vehicle because of European regulation, well, she's not entirely correct. It's because there is a kind of a moral idea about that. But at the moment, the use of AI in warfare is not regulated at all. And delegating the decision to kill a human to a machine without any form of standards, thresholds, decisions that the society has made about whether this is permissible or not is very problematic, because it means that we're crossing a line that is the one that separates war from atrocities. And to my account, doing something like that, it is a form of atrocity.
Well, there is no official ban right now on these tools at the moment, but are there any safeguards to prevent civilians from becoming unintended victims?
That's the most dramatic thing. So just to give a bit of a background, we've been talking about autonomous weapon systems since 2013. The UN has a group of experts that has been working on these weapons for over a decade. At the moment, we have no agreed definition, no definition of technical standards in terms of security, levels of control, permissible and impermissible uses. And this is very problematic per se, but this is even more problematic when we factor in the civilians, the non-combatant. The person from Ukraine that is reported in the article, they say that the system will kill whatever he sees, whatever he finds. That means that it's a fully indiscriminate system, that whether the system sees a combatant, a child, an old person, a non-combatant, it won't be able or won't be designed to discriminate. So civilians are going to be put intentionally in harm's ways. And this is illegal under current international humanitarian laws. And of course, it's also deeply immoral. So it's not acceptable at any level.
Well, Mariarosaria, I mean, I think the worry as well is that even if nations have hesitations in terms of the morality of using these tools, if other nations are using them, those nations that are worried will have to use them because they'll be put at a disadvantage.
There are two answers to this point, which is a very common point. The first one is, let's say, more moral or ethical. A society, a liberal democracy, is defined by many standards. One of these standards is the way it wages its war. A state, a government of a liberal democracy that perpetrates these forms of atrocities while waging war outside its border, well, it's a state that stops being a liberal democracy because it's violating the human rights of other people. So by saying or picturing the argument you are suggesting, no? So that we have to resort to these weapons because our enemies will resort to them, we're actually allowing our enemies to set the standards for our democracies. So we're allowing them to lower the bar so that we can get at their low level. So morally speaking and politically speaking is not, I think, a good idea. But I think the argument also has an historical counter-argument after the war in Iran. The first day of the war in Iran, the US has declared that they have hit 1,000 targets with the use of AI. And you might remember that a few weeks before the war in Iran, there was a huge dispute with Anthropic, an AI provider, about the fact that the company didn't want to allow the government, the US government, to use their technology, their AI in war without boundaries, without limitations. So we can say that the US has used AI in war in Iran without limitations, without any sort of boundaries. They haven't won the war. Those 1,000 targets haven't allowed the US to win the war in one day, in 1 week. In fact, a few months later, we're still hearing and seeing of images of war, possible peace being announced this week, we'll see. So actually, the idea that you can use a capability at full speed without regulation doesn't mean you're going to win, because victory in war doesn't come just by brute force. It comes with a strategy, with a theory of victory.